Hi, everybody. Hey there. I want to welcome you to the Harley Carnes podcast. And then I got a quick question for you, because we're having a debate about it here with some of the producers who want me to just drop the theme, get rid of it. We don't need it. I said, just get right into the thing, like a lot of people do. Some people have a theme, some don't. I come from the broadcast world and did newscasts for so many years. We always had some sort of theme going into it, so that's what makes me comfortable. On the other hand, I want you to be comfortable. So if there is an issue with that, I'd like to know it. I'd also like to know what your preference is, because, hey, it doesn't make any difference to me. I could play the music or I could not play the music. Either one works. The music's all gone now anyway. So let's get to it. I hope you'll remember to do the thing. One of the reasons for using the music, to tell you the truth, was so I'd have a moment to say to you, please help us spread the word. If you like these podcasts, we need to grow it. If we don't grow an audience, then what's the point, right? So let's talk about some of the news that's in the news today. Obamacare is still there. You can still get your health insurance, only now that the federal subsidies have expired, you'll get to see what Obamacare actually costs. In other words, if the taxpayers are not footing a big chunk of the bill to make Obamacare seem like a really good deal, and it was no great shakes even with it, now you will see what it really is. And the bottom line is your premiums, if that's where you get your insurance, will go up a lot. 26% is the average increase. It affects about 24 million people. So when Democrats say that health insurance is going to double, it's going to skyrocket, that's the actual number, about 26%, the average increase. And that's what they're talking about. The Trump administration says people need a better deal, and he wants to work out a better deal, meaning better insurance for less money. Democrats don't want to do that because they don't want to do anything Trump wants to do. So the subsidies are gone as of today, and for some people, a little less than 7% of the people, the price of health insurance is going to hurt, actually go up 26% on average. The subsidies from the government were supposed to be temporary anyway. We forget that. They were passed to help people over the hump during the pandemic. The far left hates temporary. It'll mean Obamacare might at last wither and die. The government had no business trying to force you to buy it anyway, or pretending it was a tax to get it through the courts. Infamously, 2,000 pages that Congress passed before reading it. One of Nancy Pelosi's sterling moments. We have had a couple of these. It's just awful. When fire starts in a bar, which is usually old and dry as tinder, with plenty of alcohol to feed the flames, if the crowd is large and the exits few, disaster can be next. In Switzerland, 40 people dead. More than 100 were injured. New Year's Eve, the Swiss Alps, young people from several countries, ages 16 to 26. One hospital ran out of beds and space. Hospitals took some 90 miles away to Zurich. It was a bad situation. The dance floor was in the basement. The only stairway up and out was narrow. When President Trump was in office the first time, he brought his love of golf to the people, creating the National Links Trust, which then took over management of 3 public golf courses, Langston Golf Course, East Potomac Links, and Rock Creek Park Golf, all of them in the Washington area, and all of them then free for the people. And it came with a string or two. The courses were to take that federal subsidy money and improve the golf courses and the facilities and to stop defaulting on the leases. Well, they didn't do that. The Interior Department has now ended the subsidies and the leases with it. The golf courses are still there. They just won't be free. A good deal is a two-way street. That was a good deal for the public and for the golf courses as long as the course managers lived up to their end of the deal with the National Park Service, the Links Trust. They deny all of it. They say they've done a bang-up job. That street stopped going both ways and became a dead end. Now, in case you were wondering where the largest New Year's Eve celebration was this year, big enough to set a Guinness record, It was not New York, not Hong Kong, or Sydney, Beijing, or Paris. It was in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. 2.5 million people were there on Copacabana Beach. They know because they counted them all using images taken by drones. And the record celebration on the beach was only about half of the people who were in Rio at stages and concerts and bars and restaurants celebrating. They figure overall in Rio, 5 million people were celebrating the new year. Federal government does not have to pay for Planned Parenthood's expenses. A federal appeals court in Boston said it's pretty clear constitutionally can't force taxpayers to pay the freight for ending pregnancies in the womb. If states want to pick up the tab, they can, individually. That's what the Supreme Court's abortion decision means. The justices said it's still legal to kill the baby rather than see it born. You just can't expect all of the taxpayers to pay for that when so many of them don't want to, even if they agree it's the mother's right to make the decision. Go ahead. Just don't hang everyone in the country with the bill. President Trump is doing what the Supreme Court indicated. He's pulling out the National Guard from the streets of Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, Oregon. Why? Because the Supreme Court told him he couldn't put them in unless a governor asked him to. That's also what the Constitution says. Washington, D.C. was one thing, and it was legal there, but the states are another matter. Example, troops will continue to augment the police in New Orleans and Memphis because the governors of Louisiana and Tennessee invited them in. President Trump says federal troops will return, but only after a different legal way is found to do it. You know, I made a suggestion a while back that the Justice Department could create a special division of the FBI, for example, to protect federal agents as they do their work, meaning ICE and Border Patrol in this instance, though it could work for others too. They could be on temporary duty, attached to the FIBIs, from the National Guard, maybe. Don't know if that would work. But there has to be a way to make sure the Border Patrol and Immigration can root out foreign citizens who break the law and send them home safely. Hats off to Sydney, Australia, by the way. Incredible and beautiful New Year's Eve there. Security was up to prevent any repeat of the anti-Semitic Bondi Beach shooting spree, and the only explosions of the night were the fireworks of celebration. Peace and unity were projected onto the Sydney Harbor Bridge, and fireworks exploded, of course, to celebrate the new year. The bridge was lit by a white light to symbolize peace, and a menorah was projected onto the bridge pylons as a show of solidarity. They know how to do it, and do it well in Australia. The U.S. has another sign of a stronger economy. For the third week in a row, unemployment claims were down and below the 200,000 benchmark for all 3 weeks, too. Another good sign, holiday spending was up this year. You know, you would have expected that we wouldn't have much money to spend the way the headlines were treating it all going into the holidays, right? But we spent more money, up 4.2% compared to last year. Spending online was up 7.8%. And you can't blame inflation for that either. Inflation is not as high as it was last year, not by a lot, though we still feel the pinch in some areas, like the grocery store. Inflation overall for 2025 came in at 2.7%. That's not a bad number. And it's dramatically lower than in the Biden years. We feel the pinch because even though 2.7% is actually a quite good number, it is on top of the high prices that Biden gave us. The truthful point is the affordability quotient was driven up by the Biden mess. And the only way we will all feel a lot better is for the income side of the equation to improve. That's why red tape and bureaucratic obstacles are being reduced to help businesses start, expand, and grow. Gravity. We contend with it every day. Over time, it makes us all shorter. Fighter pilots and aerobats learn to fight multiple forces of gravity in the air. If you want to know how well a railroad line, a bridge, a submarine, or a spaceship will fare over time in either heavy or microgravity, you need to test it, and that's hard to do. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Mississippi has had the world's most powerful centrifuge to place heavy stresses on whatever goes in it. People can't go for a big spin in that one. Now China is building a bigger, faster one. Try 300 Gs of force for smaller items and 100 Gs for something weighing up to 20 tons. That 20-ton object would weigh 2,000 tons at 100 Gs. Your home washing machine spins your clothes at about 2 Gs, just to make the comparison. These big centrifuges can mimic all kinds of things. Take a tank full of dirt, for example. Put some polluting substance on the surface. Give it a spin and find out pretty quickly how long it would take for the poisonous stuff to leach down into groundwater. That's just an example. Ultimately, they'll be able to create experimental environments that mimic milliseconds of time or many millennia. Yeah, it's fascinating science, really is. Speaking of science, the National Park Service is dropping the other shoe, the other side of the story, so to speak, on a tongue-in-cheek comment. A few years ago, the parks published a photo of a toad with a friendly warning that there are things in the national parks you should not eat, things like unfamiliar mushrooms. They also suggested you not lick a banana slug or a particular toad, even though they do have psychedelic sweat. Well, we don't know whether any park visitors have ever decided to give a toad a lick to find out, but the Park Service is out with a correction. Yes, they say, it might work. You might get high, but you would not like it, and you'd probably wind up in a hospital. Look, just leave the wildlife alone. If you want to pick some mushrooms, make dang sure you know the good ones. And if you want to check out the wild toad population, wear gloves and keep your tongue to yourself. All right, now there's that theme again. I want to hear from you. I want you to let me know, should we play that at the beginning or not? It's no difference to me, but it's a changing world we live in. I'm willing to go with it, Anyway, thanks for joining me on this podcast. We are on several platforms. The podcast is growing. I do appreciate your help and look forward to doing it. Can't do it without you. So please like, follow, subscribe. Share the link with people who follow you. It'll all make a difference. I am Harley Carnes, and I sure hope we'll do this again. Really do.